Mrs. Green Apple, we are back doing our track by track listen through to the album Antenna, and we are on the song Loneliness today. Now, Loneliness actually marks an interesting point in the album because it's from this point on that we've got nothing but non-video tracks. And, you know, some people might be like, Howard, that's not a good thing for a reaction. I'm like, this is great for a reaction because these are the songs where it was decided we don't need a music video. We're already successful enough. We're just doing these ones for fun. These are the ones that we don't need to, like, they don't have to make a big commercial noise. We just wanted to make these ones. And so, I don't know, we could get experimentation. Occasionally you get like the little filler tracks, which are the ones that are basically good, but not quite good enough to be singles. What could it be? Well, let's find out. This is the first of this incredible run of excitingly unannounced, unpresented songs. It's called Loneliness. Looking forward to hearing it. Let's just dive straight in, I guess. Okay. Like that sort of phaser tone. Dystopian 80s sci-fi sound. I'm getting Nana Say Aikawa like vibes from this. Oh, this is rocking. No lie, I was expecting a ballad from the name. That bass sound is so classic. Like how you got that very precise bass, but then those echoing sounds over the top. It's a strong chorus. Okay, we've been round twice though, so I'm looking forward to seeing what they do to switch it up in the bridge now. It's got a strong bridge. This might be a killer of a song. Alright, let's have a big bridge. Interesting. That's an unusual livery. Very loose vocal livery there. Okay, let's put it back up. That snare sound is so cool. Really cuts through. It's a very simple song, and I almost feel like they're copy-pasting the chorus here. Nothing wrong with that. It just really feels like a very raw sort of style of song production. Kind of a bit 80s actually. Structurally as well as tonally. Oh, I hear interesting little sounds coming in there, like little sort of production glitches that were clearly intentional, but really kind of interesting towards the end there, like a sort of a gating thing. Anyway, it doesn't matter. What I really have to say about this, not what I expected when I read the title Loneliness. I was thinking maybe this is going to be one of those Mrs. Green Apple ballads that I really like, but definitely took me in a different direction. This is a song that, okay, so it's got a bit of a mellow feeling, and it's definitely a song which is carrying a sort of an emotional weight, but it delivers it through this kind of relentless pacing sort of beat. Now, immediately from the get go, the drums have got like well, I would say from a Western perspective, we'd say it's very 80s sound. I think in Japan it would maybe be seen more as a 90s sound because it's reminding me a lot of like, well, I'm thinking of like the Nanase Aikawa Red album. That's the one that keeps coming to my mind, where she's got like a very sort of intense, like 80s sort of synths and rock vibe going on throughout that. But there's like some drum bits in that which are a lot like this, where you've got that very sharp kind of snare sound. Well, I mean, you can hear it in the song, yeah? My vocal version isn't great. I'm like a human instrument. But you a tool. You hear the snare drums, like sounds very, very like sharp, precise electronic sound snare, really cuts through. And it's great because it you've got the kick is quite intense, got a little bit of syncopation, but the kick's got a like very low intensity, but the snare is so sharp by comparison that you get that kick, snare. Okay, the kick is slightly syncopated, but you still get that walking kick, snare, mid-tempo energy, really kind of cutting through everything and giving you that relentless feeling of just pushing onwards. And that takes a mid-tempo song and actually gives it a little bit more of a pacey, urgent feel. And then you take that and you add to it the bass line, which is that it's what they call a chopper bass, where it's like the bass, like a bass tone going on and off. So you got that going underneath, which again gives it a sort of a 80s sci-fi vibe. That again also because of the fact that it's just kind of off on, just like it's kind of like giving you like this train going over tracks, relentless feeling again. So for a song that is not tempo wise very fast, it's got this relentless ongoing, urgent kind of pace to it. It really feels like a song that's marching along with a degree of intensity. And then when we get to the chorus is pretty good. I mean, it's mostly sort of relying on his voice going up and hitting those higher notes and sort of blasting a higher register compared to the verse itself, which is a little bit lower, and he's singing lower in his register. So he gets to use a bit of range in here as well. Even if this is not maybe considered as like a peak singer's song, it definitely feels like a song where the voice carries that progression from the verse into the chorus. The bridge was interesting. Wouldn't say it necessarily was one on first listen that made me think that's really great, but it wasn't bad either. It just kind of broke down a little bit. I thought it was interesting how they had the part where his voice kind of falls slightly out of rhythm or just starts doing a slightly odd rhythm and then recovers back onto the beat. That was interesting because it kind of takes you a little bit to one side and then brings you back and reasserts the energy when his voice starts to like link up with the beat again. But it was I'm not sure if that was a bridge that did a huge amount for me, but it was a more interesting way of padding out the gap between the last two choruses than just having a middle eight where you just play a few chords, but repeat a few chords from the verse and then just stick on another chorus. This definitely felt like it had an interesting and decent bridge, so I'll give it that. Overall, though, this is a song that I would personally say. Is it a favourite of mine? I don't know, but what it actually is it's a really interesting piece of variation. Takes the band who are usually so familiar for their very earthy, real tones. I mean, even when you go for a high production song like we did with Magic, it still has some really earthy, real sounding instrumental tones in it. This is a much more sort of dystopian 80s, not quite chiptune, but very much got a sort of Blade Runner-esque quality to it. Even the way even the way that with all of those sort of harsh sounds I was talking about, like the very electronic sounding drum beat and the chopper bass, you then got these echoey kind of sounds just playing out over the top, like the guitar and everything, and those very sparse sounds giving that that sort of sound of that sort of empty, big scale to things, making things sound a bit more mysterious and big, whilst you still got that like relentless energy of the sort of marching electronic bass and drums underneath everything. It certainly leaves you with a song that gives a really clear sense of it's got a soundscape to it. It definitely is a song that feels like it can sort of take you away into its own little world. So for me, I personally actually really enjoyed this. Not quite catchy enough to be a single, totally get that. But I wouldn't say this is a song that for me counts as like a rejected attempt at doing a single. This to me felt like a song where they had a certain sound they wanted to go for and they went for it. Don't know how much involvement in that is the production, like the producer, but this for me felt like a song that had a strong concept behind it and was delivered really well. So anyway, there you go. Those are my thoughts. As always, get in the comments. Tell me what you think. Hopefully you're excited to see my next reaction, which will be to a song Norn. No idea what that means. Yeah. Until I do hopefully see you very soon in my next video for that or for any one of my other reactions. Until then, for now, let me know what you think. And ciao, ciao.